Caitanya-caritāmṛtam Bhaktivedanta Swami Saksādharītena samasta sāstrayī Ruktastatha bhāvata eva sadabhi Saksādharītena samasta sāstrayī Ruktastatha bhāvata eva sadabhi Eva tasya bande gurasi charanarabindam to Prabhu priya eva tasya bande gurasi charanarabindam samsara dhamanalaliya loka pranaya-cārya ghana-ghanatyam Shakalan Punarnavasha Bande Gurasi Charanarabindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let me see if I can get Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, and welcome to the Thursday evening reading from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the original unedited books by Srila Prabhupada, which is one of our marquee programs with the Prabhupada Disciples Association and the Hare Krishna Society. And we're a group. We're registered as a society, and our membership are all Prabhupada disciples. So it's very simple. And along with that, I wanted to mention I was listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada when he was speaking about Lord Chaitanya. And it was in my car the other day, actually. It's very, really interesting look at our philosophy and hearing it being explained directly by our guru. Now, the point is, for all of his disciples, you should repeat what you hear, not try to change or concoct it on the basis of personal self-aggrandizement or money or whatever your motive is, but just simply repeat. Now, Prabhupada insists that all the time to his disciples. Not only repeat them, but verify using his quotations from the scriptures to authenticize the the preaching with Shastric quotes, like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu always does so nicely, Ram Raghava, in our classes. It's always amazing for me when I sit in the class and hear Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu speak. It's just, it takes me back in time, actually. He's always been this way, and you know that from the Gurukula school, where you attended in Vrindavan for a short period of time, how he is. And Prabhupada saw that in him. But getting back to what I was saying about Prabhupada in this lecture, Prabhupada says, and Lord Chaitanya would speak to the devotees, and they accepted everything that he said as Shastra. Very interesting. Everything he said as Shastra. And then Prabhupada uses the word Acharya, because he was the Acharya. And Lord Chaitanya appeared, set the example how to perform devotional service as the greatest devotee. So everything that the Acharya speaks, Prabhupada says, is Shastra. Now, connect the dots. Everything that Prabhupada says, because he is Acharya, is Shastra and cannot be changed. Not one word. And now the question is, how to understand what Prabhupada says? Well, you can read and you can listen. That's one way. And you can, if you have the capacity, Prabhupada talks about capacity of the person. If you have capacity based on who you are as a devotee in your life, then you may understand because you have the capacity. If you don't have the capacity, Ram Raghava, then what are you supposed to do? Well, what you do is you go to a authorized disciple of Srila Prabhupada. If Prabhupada is not personally present, you go to him and you ask him advice. Well, Guru Shastra Sadhu. Guru Shastra Sadhu. The sadhu is there to also help. And in this way, we can get a proper understanding of what Prabhupada is trying to explain to all of us on how to go back to Godhead. Very important point, because this is the principle of Guru Tattva. And we stress that in our conversations all the time, online, that this is how you get enlightened and you become fixed up in devotional service and you become a devotee. And I wanted to clarify an issue that was brought up, make devotees. Someone mentioned about that. What do you mean, make devotees? This was an expression, Mother Ruchisa, you know this, from the 70s. That's how we described it, all the devotees. And Prabhupada would ask, how many devotees are you making? You don't make devotees. This doesn't mean that you're the pure devotee and like that. You're making devotees like that. You're carrying out the orders of the spiritual master. You're going door to door. You're distributing. There was a devotee in Montreal, John, I forget his last name. His name's John. And I was going door to door in a French district in those low rises. And I knocked on the door of this guy's apartment. And he came up to the door and he was shocked when he saw me in my pink robes and my tilak. He'd never seen anybody like that. It was 1973. I wish I could remember his name. He has a spiritual name too. But at any rate, he's from Montreal. He was a friend of Hippocrates, John. Old, he's just catching up with me. But what happened was he took the Gita, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and because he took the Gita from me, he read it and became a devotee from that. Yes. And then when he came to the temple, I was explaining Nilesh about make devotee, qualifying that was an expression that we used back in the 70s. It was common in the temples. Remember, I lived in the temple for 15 years. Yaśodā, about the same amount of time. We each were 15 years. 15 years in the temple. I was 11 years temple president. Okay. Well, it doesn't mean I was a great devotee or anything like that, but I made a commitment of time. So the expression make devotee, to clarify it, it wasn't you went around and said, oh, I made those devotees, but you assisted Prabhupada in bringing people to his lotus feet. And you would also train them because Prabhupada wasn't there. So you would train them. So it was an expression that was common then. It's not common now. And I understand, Nilesh, it could be misunderstood by other people. Oh, you think you're making devotees. Yeah, no, it was an expression from back then. And that you get that jargon when you're in that environment. So there's different things that you say that were then, but they may not be the same now, of course. But that's just to clarify that. So just quickly too, I wanted to mention about this fires in California. How startling. Like recently, there was these hurricanes on the East Coast, terrible. And now this fires are going through Los Angeles into Beverly Hills, and I'm hearing all these mansions are being destroyed by these movie stars. People are upset. This is collective karma, very serious. Adi Devika, the miseries caused by these sevenfold miseries, Adi Bhautika, Adi Devika, Adi Atmaka. This Adi Devika, this natural disasters, seems to be something that's like these wars. It's absolutely terrible what's going on. I see that the President of the United States, he's saying this, Nilesh. I'm studying, I was in political science when I went to university, so I have an interest in it. And I'm seeing him speak the other day, and he says, if they don't give back these hostages, the Israelis don't get their people back from the Hamas, then all hell will break loose on January 20th. Think about that. And I don't think he's joking. I think he's warning them, you better be serious. So it's not about the sides, it's about the fact that there's wars, there's hurricanes, there's fires, there's disease. Of course, there's disease hitting all of us, whether it's cancer. I got injured last week. I didn't want to get injured. There's danger at every step. This material world, if we take this process of spiritual life very seriously, we'll be blessed by Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya for protecting people with the knowledge that they're the eternal servants of Krishna. And that's as far as I'm going to go on this, because Yaśoda's going to speak anyway. I wanted to read from the Nectar of Devotion. I wasn't sure who our co-host is today. Is it Nilesh or Ram Raghava or Rupesh or Rupa Goswami? Do you know Nilesh? Who's the... I'm going to read from Qualities of Krishna in the Nectar of Devotion. Qualities of Krishna, number 20. Seer by the authority of the scriptures. Qualities of Krishna. Let's see what chapter it is. Sorry. Like I said, I didn't know who was hosting.
It is Rupa Goswami Prabhuji.
Okay.
It's Rupa Goswami Prabhu.
Okay, good. Rupa Goswami. So whoever can bring it up amongst our team, our technology team. And I have good news for that, by the way. I won't... Chapter 21, Qualities of Sri Krishna. When I read this, I thought, this will be relevant for us to hear. I'm just going to read the qualities and draw from them, everyone, the understanding of how we should see this philosophy directly from Rupa Goswami, but via, of course, Srila Prabhupada. A person who acts exactly according to the tenets of Scripture, is called Shastra Chakshus. Shastra Chakshus means one whose eyes sees through the eyes of the authorized Scriptures. See, I'm not going to repeat it. It's self-evident. Actually, any man of knowledge and experience should see everything through these books. For example, with our naked eye, we perceive the sun globe simply as some glaring substance. But when we see through authorized books of science and other literature, we can understand how much greater the sun globe is than this earth and how powerful it is. So Prabhupada told us that Bhaktisiddhanta said, devotee sees through his ears, not through the eyes. So seeing things through the naked eye is not actually seeing. This is Rupa Goswami justifying this. This Vani incarnation principle is based on this. Prabhupada's pure sound. Seeing things through the authorized books or authorized teachers, that's A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, not Jayadvaita, is the correct way to see. I'm going to insert here. Prabhupada says, where is the authority when a third-class man changes the books of the first-class pure devotee? Where is the authority? There is none. So although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can see all that is past, present, and future, to teach the people in general, he used to always refer to the scriptures. This is authentic preaching, like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu does. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, although Krishna was speaking as the supreme authority, he is still mentioned and quoted Vedanta Sutra as authority. There is a statement in Srimad Bhagavatam wherein a person jokingly says that Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, is known as the seer through the Shastras. In order to establish his authority, however, he is now engaged in seeing the gopis, whereby the gopis are becoming maddened. So that's as much as we'll read, but very insightful information to support our principle of accepting Prabhupada in his Vani incarnation and our spiritual master and authority in all matters, not mental concoctions. And that's rampant in this current movement. We're going to quickly go, I hope we can get to the diaries. Rupa Goswami, will you be able to get to the diary here? We're going to read this letter from Mangala Niloy. Can you put the letter up? If not, we'll go directly to the chanting in the class. Just let me know. He has problems with his computer. Let's see where we are. It really comes after July. Oh, you know something? This diary that's online, is it? Let me see. Sorry, everybody. It's July 12th. Go to July 12th, Prabhu. And let's see if it's, no. Okay, we're going to pass on this because it's in a letter here in the diary, but on the online version, which is he's using, not the actual book that I have, it's not included. And it's a somewhat a long letter. I'll just summarize it briefly. We'll read it at the next session. Yeah, go ahead.
Prabhuji, can you give us the date of the letter? What is the date of the letter? Maybe we can pull it up.
8766. 8766. So it's what is it? 6th is June, July, but it says July 12th here, Prabhu. I think we're going to be jammed, and we're running out of time here. We're already at 8:21. Heck, we could go to certificate of incorporation. I did read that the other day. It was very engaging. Let's table it because I'd like to get everybody a chance to see it on the screen instead of me just reading it. Let's see what he's got. Oh, that's in English.
Is this the one, Prabhuji?
Hold on. With due obeisances. No, that's not it. Sorry, that's not. Okay, so we'll move forward with no problems, Prabhus, and we'll continue on with our research in these matters. We'll move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava. Everybody chant along, and then we'll have a reading in class with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Prabhupada and Sankirtan movement.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Caitanya-caritāmṛta Chaitanya Sadasyaman Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Nityānanda Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityānanda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridharan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya Narayanam namaskritya Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead, Narayana, 2, to the Naranarayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome, everyone, to this reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. It should be noted right from the start that this particular reading and discussion is based upon the non-adulterated, non-interpolated, original, non-edited version of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the 1974 authorized version, in that all the synonyms, translations, and purports are from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. As we do every week, we will read a few selected verses from the Caitanya-caritāmṛta itself, from the Adi-lila, chapter 1, from text 18 through 22, which explains the meaning and the benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityānanda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Caitanya and Nityānanda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Etina Thakura Gaudiya ki karye chenayat masat. Etinera Charana Vandan Tere Morenat. These three deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Granterarambi Kari Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavanti Nerasmarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Kinerasmaraneai vigna vinashana. Anayasyai nijavanchita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Simangala charanai trivida prakar vastu nirdesha shirvada namaskara. The invocation involves three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. This week we will be reading from Adi-lila chapter 5, text. Let's see here. What is the text number? Okay, hold on. I got it. Text number 62. Maya amshi kahi nare nimitta karan sehanohe yate kartahi tu narayana. Maya amshi, to the other portion of the material nature. Kahi, I say, tare, unto her, nimitta karana, immediate cause. Seha nahe, that cannot be. Yate, because. Kartahi, to the original cause. Narayana, Lord Narayana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Maya aspect of material nature is the immediate cause of the cosmic manifestation, but it also cannot be the real cause, for the original cause is Lord Narayana. Text number 63. Gater nimitto etu yoiche kumbhakar, toeche jagatera karta purusha avatar. Gatera, of the earthen pot, nimittahi, to original cause, yoiche, just as, kumbhakara, the potter, toiche, similarly, jagatera karata, the creator of the material world, purusha avatara, the Purusha incarnation, or Karanar Navashayi Vishnu. Translation. Just as the original cause of an earthen pot is the potter, so the creator of the material world is the first Purusha incarnation, Karanar Navashayi Vishnu. Text number 64. Krishna Karta Mayatandra Karena Sahai, Gatera Karana Chakra Dandari Upai. Krishna, Lord Krishna, Karta, the creator, Maya, material energy, Tanra, his, Karena, does, Sahaya, assistance, Gatera Karana, the cause of the earthen pot, Chakradanda Adi, the wheel, the rod, and so on. Upaya, instruments. Translation. Lord Krishna is the creator, and Maya only helps him as an instrument, just like the potter's wheel and other instruments, which are the instrumental causes of a pot. Text number 65. Duraete purusha karimayate avadhan, Jiva Rupa Viryatate Karena Adhan. Duraete, from a distance. Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kare, does. Mayate, unto the material energy. Avadhana, glancing over. Jiva Rupa, the living entities. Virya, seed. Tate, in her. Karena, does. Adhana, impregnation. Translation. The first Purusha cast his glance at Maya from a distance, and thus he impregnates her with the seed of life in the form of the living entities. Text number 66. Ekanga bhate karimayati milan, mayaete janmeta be brahmandiragan. Eka, one. Anga abhase, bodily reflection. Kare, does. Mayate, in the material energy, milana, mixture, maya, the material energy, oite, from, janme, grows, tabe, then, Brahma Anderagana, the group of universes. Translation: the reflected rays of his body mix with Maya, and thus Maya gives birth to myriads of universes. Purport by His Divine Grace. The Vedic conclusion is that the cosmic manifestation visible to the eyes of the conditioned soul is caused by the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, through the exertion of his specific energies. Although in the conclusion of atheistic deliberations, this manifested cosmic exhibition is attributed to material nature, the energy of the absolute truth is exhibited in three ways: spiritual, material, and marginal. The absolute truth is identical with his spiritual energy. Only when contacted by the spiritual energy can the material energy work, and the temporary material manifestation thus appear active. In the conditioned state, the living entities of the marginal energy are a mixture of spiritual and material energies. The marginal energy is originally under the control of the spiritual energy, but under the control of the material energy, the living entities have been wandering in forgetfulness within the material world since time immemorial. The conditioned state is caused by misuse of the individual independence of the spiritual platform, for this separates the living entity from the association of the spiritual energy. But when the living entity is enlightened by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee, and becomes inclined to revive his original state of loving service, he is on the most auspicious platform of eternal bliss and knowledge. The marginal jiva or living entity misuses his independence and becomes averse to the eternal service attitude when he independently thinks he is not energy but the energetic. This misconception of his own existence leads him to the attitude of lording it over material nature. Material nature appears to be just the opposite of the spiritual energy. The fact is that the material energy can work only when in contact with the spiritual energy. Originally, the energy of Krishna is spiritual, but it works in diverse ways, like electrical energy, which can exhibit the function of refrigerating or heating through its manifestations in different ways. The material energy is spiritual energy covered by a cloud of illusion or maya. Therefore, the material energy is not self-sufficient in working. Krishna invests his spiritual energy into material energy, and then it can act, just as iron can act like fire after being heated by fire. The material energy can act only when empowered by the spiritual energy. When covered by the cloud of material energy, the living entity, who is also a spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, forgets about the activities of the spiritual energy and considers all that happens in the material manifestation to be wonderful. But a person who is engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness and who is therefore already situated in the spiritual energy can understand that the material energy has no independent powers. Whatever actions are going on are due to the help of the spiritual energy. The material energy, which is a perverted form of the spiritual energy, presents everything pervertedly, thus causing misconceptions and duality. Material scientists and philosophers, conditioned by the spell of material nature, suppose that material energy acts automatically, and therefore they are frustrated like an illusioned person who tries to get milk from the nipple-like bunches of skin on the neck of a goat. As there is no possibility of getting milk from these bunches of skin, there is similarly no possibility that anyone will be successful in understanding the original cause of creation by forwarded theories produced by the material energy. Such an attempt is a manifestation of ignorance. The material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Maya, or illusion, because in two capacities, by supplying the material elements and by causing the material manifestation, it makes the conditioned soul unable to understand the real truth of creation. When a living entity is liberated, however, from the conditional life of matter, he can understand the two different activities of material nature, namely covering and bewildering. The origin of creation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, the cosmic manifestation is working under the direction of the Supreme Lord, who invests the material energy with three material qualities. Agitated by these qualities, the elements supplied by the material energy produce varieties of things, just as an artist produces varieties of pictures by mixing the three colors red, yellow, and blue. Yellow represents the quality of goodness, red represents passion, and blue represents ignorance. Therefore, the colorful material creation is but an interaction of these three qualities, represented in 81 varieties of mixtures. 3 by 3 equal 9, and 9 multiplied by 9, thus equaling 81. Deluded by material energy, the conditioned soul, enamored by these 81 varieties of manifestations, wants to lord it over material energy, just as a fly wants to enjoy a fire. This illusion is the net result of the conditioned soul's forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When conditioned, the soul is impelled by the material energy to engage in sense gratification, whereas one enlightened by the spiritual energy engages himself in the service of the Supreme Lord in his eternal relationship. Krishna is the original cause of the spiritual world, and he is the covered cause of the material manifestation. He is also the original cause of the marginal potency, the living entities. He's both the leader and maintainer of the living entities, who are called marginal potency because they can act under the protection of the spiritual energy or under the cover of the material energy. With the help of the spiritual energy, we can understand that independence is visible only in Krishna, who by his inconceivable energy is able to act in any way he likes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the absolute truth, and the living entities are parts of the absolute whole. This relationship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and living entities is eternal. One should never mistakenly think that the spiritual whole can be divided into small parts by the small material energy. Bhagavad Gita does not support this Mayavada theory. Rather, it clearly states that the living entities are eternally small fragments of the supreme spiritual whole. As a part can never be equal with the whole, so a living entity as a minute fragment of the spiritual whole cannot be equal at any time to the supreme whole, the absolute personality of Godhead. Although the Supreme Lord and the living entities are quantitatively related as the whole and the parts are nevertheless qualitatively one with the whole. Thus, the living entities, although always qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, are in a relative position. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of everything, and the living entities are always controlled either by the spiritual energy or by the material energy. Therefore, a living entity can never become the controller of material or spiritual energies. The natural position of the living being is always as the subordinate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one agrees to act in such a position, he attains perfection in life. But if one rebels against this principle, he is in the conditioned state. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Gurave Namah. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityānanda Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punah Punah Srimadrupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadaso Esmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Sadakaromi Swam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityānanda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains Maya Dyakshina Prakritihi Suyase Chacharacharam, that everything is coming from Krishna under the influence of his transcendental energies. Now, this is a very important, here we go, very nice. Maya Dyakshina Prakriti. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So this is a very important point to understand. In the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, it goes here into considerable systematic detail, explaining how the material energy is manifested in the beginning of creation. Now we hear from different scriptural texts of different religious denominations that in the beginning there was the Word. But here in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, we see considerable detail, a sequence detail of how this manifestation, how this creation comes about. The Srimad Bhagavatam also, especially in the second and third canto, gives great detail similar to the Caitanya-caritāmṛta of how this process takes place. Now, this is all done to the manifestation of Krishna's energy, his avatars, called the Purusha avatars. There's the Karana Udakashaya Vishnu, Garbha Udakashaya Vishnu, and Kshira Udakashaya Vishnu. Now these three Vishnus, especially the Mahavishnu or the Karana Udakashaya Vishnu, the big Vishnu lies in the causal ocean between the material and the spiritual world. And the way it begins, that it glances over the material nature, over Durga, and then the living entities are manifested. The universes are manifested, and the living entities are impregnated into the material nature according to their previous karma. And then Brahma, the living entity which is in charge of the chief engineer of the universe, he starts the creation again. He's an agent. But the original cause is Lord Krishna through Narayana and through Mahavishnu. Now, this may be inconceivable to people who are engaged in the mental speculation or the path of sensual exploration. It's impossible to understand. The reason we understand this is by hearing from authorities, by hearing from the great acharyas and the Shastra. Just like earlier in the talk, Vishwakarma Prabhu was referring to the term Shastra Chakshus, that devotees have to learn to see through the eyes of scriptures. Now, what does that mean? Because we see that there's different interpretations with this. In the modern context of the teachings of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, we see that certain persons who had an authorization to be managers overstep their position to try to step over the position of Acharya. And the result has been chaos and confusion. The philosophy has already been established. The Acharya has already come. The Acharya is already here. It is simply a matter to learn how to submissively hear from the Acharya and accept his teachings. There's no need to invent and interpret the Acharya's teaching to suit somebody's personal ambition. That will not be allowed. And we have seen that whenever persons, out of personal motive for name, fame, power, profit, adoration, distinction, and a whole list of various, laundry list of various personal motivation, they cannot understand what is pure Krishna consciousness. In 1970, Srila Prabhupada wrote to one devotee, Ishan Das, as soon as there is personal motivation, it is not possible to understand our Krishna consciousness philosophy. Of course, so many devotees think, oh, I don't have any personal motivation. Well, that's nice. It's a pious belief. But what does Prabhupada mean by this? It means personal ambition for profit, adoration, and distinction, which are the main features of being in the material world. The reason that living entities are in the material world suffering is because of this point, the desire for profit, adoration, and distinction, which brings us to the situation that we're facing. We've just heard how there's been devastating wildfires in Southern California, specifically in Los Angeles and other areas, not only in Los Angeles. And there's all kinds of political statements being made by various personalities accusing one another who is responsible, why that's taken place. But most people do not understand why these events take place, just like earthquakes. Like recently, there was a big earthquake in North California near a little town called Eureka, which is on the Pacific coast, close to the border of Oregon. It was a pretty devastating earthquake. And there's other areas around the world, like in Japan, like in Taiwan and other places, in Chile, South America, Mexico, where there's pretty serious earthquakes. Actually, anybody can follow if somebody is interested. There is a website called USGS, the U.S. Geological Service, where they track the earthquakes as they're happening, especially in California and other places. So why do these events happen? Why do these big floods happen? Why? Just like recently in Florida, not too far ago, there was some big event, like a tornado, sweeping through the state, caused considerable devastation. And it went all the way to North Carolina and other places. Places in Canada get extremely cold. Vishwakarma knows this. He lives there. He knows there's some parts of Canada which are extremely cold, especially in the northern areas. Parts of Scandinavia, parts of Russia. Can you stop it? You can't. You can't stop the earthquake. You can't stop the hurricane. You can't stop the tornado. There's places which are extremely hot, unbearable heat. So these various conditions are imposed by material nature. Some people use the excuse, oh, if there is a God, why is there suffering? No, there is suffering because of disobedience of God, because of turning away from God. That is why there is suffering. People do not understand the law of karma. Law of karma is often interpreted, oh, if you do something, you're going to get a reaction. Yeah, that's pretty simple. It's like recently I was having a discussion with someone, and I asked that person, why is it that not everybody is quite as intelligent like you? You seem to have much above average intelligence. He didn't have really an answer. Why is it that some people are not very intelligent? Or why is it some people are dumb like a stone? Or some people are very beautiful. Some people are so-so. Some people are not very attractive or ugly. Why is anybody not all the same? Why is there such a varieties in human society? Unless somebody understands the law of karma, it is not possible to explain all of these varieties. But Bhagavad Gita explains it. Karanam gunasangasya tadasad yoni janmasu. That these different conditions of life, auspicious and inauspicious, are due to association with the modes of nature. And when collectively, when human society engages in wholesale sinful activities like killing of animals, abortion, so many different kinds of sinful activities, meat eating, all different kinds of intoxication, exploiting material nature, there is a reaction. Occasionally there is reaction. Okay, very nice here. You have given that quote from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text number 22. Purushaha prakritistohi bhukte prakriti jam gunan karanam gunasangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So this is Krishna's explanation why there are so many different varieties of life, different varieties of condition, varieties of enjoyment, and varieties of suffering. Nothing happens by chance. The reason why there are wildfires or earthquakes, there are different conditions in the material world. Adhyatmika, klesha. Klesha means miseries. Adhyatmika means miseries due to one's body. As soon as one is born, there will be... Have you ever seen a baby coming out of the womb smiling? They're all crying. Why? Because it's a suffering position. It's a very difficult position to be in the womb of a mother. Adibautika klesha, miseries due to other living entities. Envious living entities, envious persons, insects, different kind of animals. There are so many different miseries in the material world due to other living entities. Adidaivika klesha, miseries due to the demigods. I keep joking sometimes, Indra and Vayu, in this part where we live, it can be quite severe with the weather. It can be very unpredictable, especially when you live near the top of a mountain. The clouds are right above your head. And there will be difficulties. There will be problems. So this is a very, very important point. Here's a very nice text here. It is the duty of a disciple approaching it. Go back to the text. It is the duty of a disciple approaching a spiritual master to inquire about his constitutional position. In conformity to that spiritual process, Sanata has already asked, what am I and why am I suffering from the threefold miseries? The threefold miseries are called Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Adidaivika. The word Adhyatmika refers to those miseries caused by the mind and body. Sometimes the living entity suffers bodily and sometimes he is distressed mentally. Both are Adhyatmika miseries. We experience these miseries even in the womb of our mother. As we well know, there are many types of miseries that take advantage of the delicate human body and give us pain. Miseries inflicted by other living entities are called adhibhautika. These living entities need not even be large, for there are many such as bugs that can make us miserable, even while we are sleeping in bed. There are many insignificant living entities like cockroaches that sometimes gives us pain, and there are also other living entities who are born on different kinds of planets who give us miseries. As for the adhidaivika miseries are concerned, there are natural disasters that originate with the demigods of the higher planets. For instance, we sometimes suffer from severe cold or hot weather, from a thunderbolt, or from earthquakes, tornadoes, droughts, and many natural disasters. In any case, we are always suffering from either one or a combination of these three kinds of miseries. So this is a very important point, to put things in proper context and understand why the suffering is there in the material world. There is individual karma and collective karma. And there's also karma from our past life that has not yet fructified that can also affect us. And this is why we take shelter of a bona fide, realized, liberated spiritual masters, that all of this karma in the past can be nullified and taken away by the mercy of the spiritual master and the chanting of the name of Krishna. This is very important to understand. The spiritual master gives the transcendental knowledge by which divyam jnanam yato-dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam. How is the karma taken away? Jiva Goswami explains, by the divyam jnanam given by the Acharya. Kuryat papasya sankshayam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I'm just getting, sometimes it's hard to get to my microphone. I'm listening to the wonderful discussion, that speech by Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu about the material world. It really is sobering to hear it so clearly from him, the knowledge, and realize the situation that we're in. Everyone, you could have a heart attack at any moment. I know one of our members here had a heart attack a few months ago. So misery can strike at any moment. And I wanted to say, I'm going to personally read this purport tomorrow. I found it very detailed, the information in this particular presentation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And I really want to go through it again and get some deep insight from him in terms of transcendental vision. One thing that I did see here, which I thought was very revealing, was in this purport, is in the second paragraph of this text 66. The conditioned state is caused by misuse of the individual independence of the spiritual platform, for this separates the living entity from the association of the spiritual energy. So Prabhupada here pinpoints the point, or the issue. But when the living entity is enlightened by the grace of the Supreme Lord, or his pure devotee, and becomes inclined to revive his original state of loving service, bhakti yoga, the Sankirtan mission, that's what it is. He is on the most auspicious platform of eternal bliss and knowledge. Know it for certain, there's no happiness in this world. I mentioned this the other day, Nilesh. Very rarely I'm not trying to bag, do I really ever feel happy? It's just not part of my disposition these days at this age. But there is a bliss, a blissful life that you can experience in association with other devotees. I very much enjoy the association of Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. I know, he might have left. No, there he is. But I really do, personally. He was one of my favorite people in the universe. This material planet, anyway. I don't know the universe, but anyway. I know he's shaking his head, but I'm just saying. And I think that many of us feel the same way. That he gives, it was certainly, I missed him last Sunday for the Bhagavatam class, and we soldiered on. But at the same time, this working together with other devotees is always so, and people taking different roles based on their expertise. Everybody has skills here in our group. And by the way, I wanted to mention, we are going to be expanding our program to a 24-hour streaming of Prabhupada lectures and our classes intermingled on a 24-hour basis. And that's being worked on now with Rupa Goswami Prabhu, and we're going to be calling on a few of our members to join us in collaborating to put this up as another service for the devotees that are really serious about spiritual life. If you're not serious, you're going to get on the train and get off the train. That's the way it is. The reason we know is because we're on the train, we haven't got off yet. Thank Krishna. When you get on the train and you start to experience the speed at which we're moving, you won't want to get off the train because you're going to miss where you're going. This is a very important thing, to be steady. They're in the nectar. We're going to read these different qualities of Krishna in some sections of the Nectar of Devotion later. But this steadiness of devotional service, this fixation with it, is the secret of success. There was a guy, G.W. Turner, Vishnu Tattva, who passed away recently. He was a very good devotee. He was Mr. Ontario, actually. He was from Fiji Islands. He was a good friend of mine. And I introduced him to Krishna Consciousness while I was president in Toronto. He became initiated. But he was Mr. Ontario, Nilesh. So he's from Fiji. He was a professional boxer. He had 75 professional fights. He was the last second initiated devotee by Srila Prabhupada personally in Vrindavan before Prabhupada stopped the initiations. Interesting, eh? And he came back to Canada here. We were working, trying to get things going. Of course, we failed all the time. It's been like years of effort to try to find something till I met Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. And then things have evolved to this. But he had a book called a book on motivation, because he ran these clubs. And I've been trained professionally in sales. People that run these clubs, Ram Raghava, these gym clubs, they're also professional salesmen. They're very slick. It's not all about the exercise. The club runs on the basis of your ability to sell memberships. So he had these motivational tapes by this guy, G.W. Turner, who had a nuff nose like this. You're never gonna. He would do like this. He spoke like that. You gotta have stickability. That's the way he expressed it. You gotta have stickability. So I got that phrase from them. But this phrase, stickability, is mostly related to Krishna consciousness for us. You have to stick to it, despite all the difficulties that the false ego may bring up. Because it's the false ego that always trips us up. Yaśodā-nandana was speaking, profit, adoration, and distinction. This seems to be the motive of a lot of people that get involved in Krishna consciousness, but they're sticking to it for their own personal self-aggrandizement, not to glorify Prabhupada. And it becomes obvious. And then there's karma from it. You were talking about karma. Just see some of these people, how they've been afflicted by accepting the karma of all these people they've initiated. Can you imagine it, Ram Raghava? Having 80,000 disciples and you have to accept all of their karma? Look at the face of Jayapataka Swami. He's like the walking dead. It's terrible what's happened to him. Like, I'm not celebrating it, but the fact of the matter is, when you do, look what happened to Tamal Krishna, Nilashama. I know about this story because David Deva, who was in Toronto, we were friends. We got into the real estate business after he left the temple. He went to Philadelphia. He built some kind of a food for life big thing there. He still has many millions of dollars. And because he was in Mayapur, Tamal made friends with him. Oh, Devi Deva, here's Devi Deva. And he was with Tamal for the last week of his life. He was with him. He's told me the discussions he was having with Tamal in Mayapur Dham. And Tamal was plotting, and his plan was he was going to leave Mayapur. He wasn't attending the meetings, and then he would come back and he said, I'm going to become the Acharya for the movement. Because there was people who were trying to figure out who is the big gun that was going to take over the movement. Nityānanda wanted to take it over. He wanted to be he was shutting down the temples and stealing all the people and bringing them to West Virginia for his so-called Palace of Gold project. That's such madness. Who was he really trying to glorify? It was him. So these kinds of plots were going on back then. Oh yes, and it was very unfortunate. And it was all based on false ego. That's the point. Profit, adoration, and distinction. This false ego moves in. You have to study, not you, anyone specific here. I'm not targeting anybody here. We have to study how our false ego, based on our material success, because some of us have material success, affects us in our life. Anyway, getting back to Tamal Krishna, what happened? He got in a car, and Devi Deva saw him off, Nilesh. When he got in his last trip, and he went down the road, and the driver slammed into a tree, and his head was crushed, and he was dead, and he never made it back to Mayapur. So, will karma hit you? Look what happened to Jayatirtha. My God. I'm not going to talk about it. You can look it up on the internet if you want. What was it? Whatever his name was. He was a friend of mine too, by the way. At the time, I was invited to India with him, or to England. I went to England, and I went to that Bhagawan's Vyas Puja that he had at that beautiful castle, Ram Raghava, that he had in France. I stayed in the big lord's rooms. Nowadays, I read an article on it. It's deteriorated down to some kind of Indian hodgepodge Hindu group. And you can't go there. It's a tragedy, the whole thing. This is reality, everyone. This is not fault finding. This is the facts and some of the history based on the deviation from service to the pure devotee without motivation. So it's and one last thing, interesting, all these natural disasters that are happening, it's a tragedy. It's actually, we should pray for everybody out of the Vaishnava compassion that everyone will be saved. It's very difficult because collective karma is there. We have a place, my son and I are planning to acquire and set up a Prabhupada Memorial Center there in Yautepec, Mexico. And there's you can see from the roof of our place, Yaśodā-nandana Popo, the volcano, and it smokes all the time, and it's always in danger of erupting in that area. Tepoztlán is right near there, and it's a big tourist site, but it's like playing with fire. It's quite dangerous. So this material world, padam padam vipadam natesham, is a very dangerous place. There's danger at every step, and we all take shelter of Srila Prabhupada and his books and his instructions and our association as devotees together to serve his mission and go back home, back to Godhead, and get out of this material world. That's our purpose. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could further discuss.
Well, you're raising some very important points. I just want to make a very brief explanation of this point about karma. There are basically 4 types of karma as described by Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. There's karma which has not yet begun to manifest, called aprarabdha karma. And then there's karma that's just about to manifest, called kuta karma. And then there's karma which is barely manifested, called bija karma. And there's prarabdha karma, which has already manifested fully, like we're experiencing in our lives. So there's different kinds of karma. And the way to get out of this situation of the entanglement of karma is to take shelter of Krishna, complete shelter of Krishna by hearing and chanting, engaging in the bhakti process under the direction and shelter of a pure devotee. Hare Krishna. We can open up the discussion. Cannot hear you. Cannot hear you.
Got it. I lost the searcher button on my screen, so I got it again. Yeah, that's right. It's a karmic catastrophe for everyone. And, you know, some of us get cancer. How good is that? It's not fun. If you get cancer, it's a great shock when you go to the hospital. In fact, when my surgeon told me, I went for examination because I was bleeding, and he examined me, he says, "Oh, you have cancer." I go, "No, I don't." And I denied him. And that denial went on for 6 months. The surgeon was telling me I had cancer, and I said, "No, I don't." And then I didn't want to listen to him for treatment. I finally did, stubborn as I was. And fortunately, he cured me, because I finally realized you got to listen to the surgeon, just like you have to listen to the spiritual master. If you want to get out of this material world, you have to listen and follow what he says and apply it in our lives. Dharma Bhavana, if you'd like to make a few comments on today's discussion. Dharma Bhavana, is he here or did he go? Oh, there he is. Microphone. Rupa Goswami put his microphone on.
There we go. Okay, how do you go? Okay, yeah, this is a pretty exciting discussion today. I remember back in the early days as a brahmachari, we would use that expression, "Oh, I made a devotee," or so-and-so made a devotee. And it was always understood, at least it should be, that we were supposed to be engaging in Sankirtan, chanting in public. We're supposed to go door to door, distribute magazines, and give out mantra cards to come to the Sunday feast. And it was always understood from all these endeavors, 1 or 2 new people would come maybe every week to the Sunday feast.
Yeah.
We were simply engaging in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And if there was some good result from it, we would expect that the movement is so beautiful and transcendental that these things would happen. And somebody may think, "Oh, I have made a devotee. I have done this." Whenever we started our thinking with "I," we were in trouble because all the devotees collectively together, and by Prabhupada's mercy, Lord Chaitanya's power, people would become attracted sometimes, and it was natural.
Yeah.
It was a natural sequence, and I don't know if people use that expression now, making a devotee.
Let me clarify it too. It wasn't generally one person. The way it was looked upon is how many devotees the temple made. That's how you looked at it.
Oh, okay, okay.
We never looked at it one person. It was how many. So when that question was asked, how many devotees did you make? It was what the temple had cultivated in their area. So go ahead. Anything else?
Okay, yeah, this is just just reflecting upon this. Yeah, it's just kind of amazing how Lord Chaitanya has this power, and some devotee may think incorrectly that I have done such and such. But whenever we start thinking I have accomplished something, we really started getting in trouble, because all the devotees work together, like you mentioned, as a temple unit. And but sometimes somebody would make close friends with somebody, like George Harrison came because he was friends with such and such person. And he was attracted because of that personal interaction with one or two or three devotees. But yeah, that's a good point. Actually, we have to work as a unit, and as a temple. Prabhupada would ask, how many new people are there?
Yeah,
how many
devotees we made for the temple. Yeah, it's the false ego, brother. It really is. And some people, our experience is, some people have it, and some, have this contamination, and some people don't. That's just the way it is. Like, for example, Tamal. I'm a good friend of Patita Pavana, who joined with Tamal in the nudist colony out in the West Coast. I speak to him. I speak to him on a regular basis, and his basic point of view in terms of Tamal was that was always his ambitious nature to do what he did, and what it ended up. So some people, they just don't have the capacity. It's just the way it is. It's like some people are good at something and they're not good at another thing. Some people can't overcome this personal self-aggrandizement pollution in their hearts. They're looking, I want people to see me. So, you can see the internet and study that and go through it and get all the information you want. There's lots of National Enquirer stuff online. We're not the National Enquirer. We don't care. We've got our friend Nilesh Sharma's got his hand up for, oh, wait a minute. Let me read this. Tom Chevrolet, we'll go to you, Nilesh, in a second. Let's read this question from Tom in Germany. And by the way, everybody, I love Tom's hair, by the way, even though you're supposed to cut it. It reminds me of me. And he's 25 years old, and he's very sincere. And I've been talking to him for, a year and a half, Prabhu, or almost 2. He has an interesting story about his life. I'm not going to tell it. He can tell it if he ever decides to. If I may, I have 2 questions for Yaśodā-nandana, Prabhu. Since Rupa Goswami Das Prabhu has posted a link last week, I've looked into the Ritvik debate from the early 1990s, and it is mentioned there that there were conversations with His Divine Grace prior to the May 28th letter regarding the Ritvik matter, and these conversations were also recorded. But these tapes were not to be found later on, and that Gauri Pandit Das mentioned the content of these conversations to others, but got chastised by Tamal Krishna. Keep his mouth shut. And this is a fact, everybody. My question is, if said tapes ever surfaced since then, or is it to be assumed that these tapes most likely got deliberately destroyed to hide the matters mentioned herein? The deep state of ISKCON, brothers and sisters here. The deep state deliberately destroyed to hide the matters mentioned herein, and also Satsrupa fellow, in wherever he is, he's also involved in this cover-up. It is to be assumed that these tapes most likely got deliberately destroyed to hide the matters mentioned herein. And by the way, this is Bhakta Tom, 25 years old, or that they simply got lost somehow. The second question, okay, so let's do both questions, Yaśodā. The second question is that as a follow-up to the debate, Tamal Krishna was to be questioned regarding clarification about the Guru Ritvik's issue and other subjects. Did this ever happen? And what was the follow-up to the Ritvik debate? Very good question. Go ahead.
In Topanga Canyon, California, on December 3rd, 1980, in Topanga Canyon, Los Angeles County, California, USA, Tamal Krishna, Hamsadutta, Jayadvaita, and several other devotees were discussing what was going on. Because what happened, Tamal had been suspended, Hamsadutta had been suspended, and Jaitirtha had been suspended for various deviations. Tamal had been suspended because he was claiming that everybody should understand Prabhupada through him, that nobody could now understand Prabhupada's teachings, but he could only understand the teachings through him. So the GBC suspended him for that. Hamsadutta was suspended for various other activities, and Jayatirtha was suspended for some Madhurya Lila activities in the bushes, or whatever that was. So what happened in these conversations, Tamal at one point said that Prabhupada had been talking about Ritvik, and then 5 or 6 of us went to see him. That refers to the May 28, 1977 conversation. Now, maybe just make a point clear. I don't think there's a record anywhere that these conversations that occurred prior to May 28, 1977 were ever recorded. There's a conversation May 27th, one day before, when Bhavananda is telling Prabhupada, oh, I know there's some people that will try to jump and be gurus. And Prabhupada says, vigilant observation is required. So it was a very brief conversation. Then the only other recorded conversation prior to that was the conversation in Bombay with Srila Prabhupada on sometimes in April of 1977, where Prabhupada described the whole breakdown of the Gaudiya Math over the initiation issue, the Acharya issue. And Tamal in that conversation says, Prabhupada says, well, you have to become qualified. And Tamal says, none of us are qualified. And at one point in a conversation, Prabhupada says that if you're not qualified, you can cheat, but it will not be very effective. It's a conversation. It's in the Prabhupada conversation books. It's documented. As far as the particular conversation you're referring to of Tamal's statement at Topanga Canyon, where he mentioned that Prabhupada had been talking about Ritvik, but that is nowhere to be found. Now, whether the tapes were destroyed, whether the tapes are missing, whether they're somewhere in Texas, in Houston, where he had his main temple, that we do not know. Now, as far as Gauridas Pandit, he was there in Vrindavan, and he was activating the tape recorder, recording a conversation with Prabhupada. Said, tomorrow I'm going to nominate some Ritviks who are going to initiate on my behalf after I leave the planet. So of course, Tamal denies this, just like Tamal also denied that he personally told me that they would continue to be Ritviks after Prabhupada depart, and he said it's all on tape. I wrote that down in my handwritten diary. Tamal later on, after the Ritvik debate, he was interviewed and denied any of this. They accused Gauridas Pandit of lying. They accused me of fabricating something, but he himself in Topanga admitted that this idea that Prabhupada appointed 11 gurus is a myth. It doesn't exist. In other words, there's no proof. There's no evidence of Srila Prabhupada in 1977, in the last few months of his manifested presence, appointing anybody as a Diksha Guru, initiating Acharya, successor Acharya, or whatever combination. So this is a brief explanation, but to say that there were tapes, that we don't know if there were tapes, at least of Tamal talking with Prabhupada prior to May 28, 1977. There's no documented tapes that ever surfaced. So that is the position. Can you make the screen a little bit bigger? I can't read that type there. I cannot read, it's too small. Okay, here we go. Says, myself, this is Tamal speaking, myself and the other GBC have done the greatest disservice to this movement the last 3 years because we interpreted the appointment of Ritviks as the appointment of gurus, which is basically the essence of their position. They claim that this appointment of Ritviks automatically transform himself into a full-fledged Diksha Guru and Acharya. And there's no proof of that from Prabhupada's statement. So that's basically what I know about it for now.
Well, it's self-evident by this information, and there's lots of information online, everybody, so go ahead and study it. And Yaśodā refers to it as the deep state of misinformation. And this is common in every organization. Look in Canada right now. The Prime Minister, he's a walking state of disinformation. Neela Sharma, you have your hand up. A question for Yaśodā, please.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, today we read about these, Prabhupada gives us a good analogy of the 3 primary colors. And he mentions in the, purport, specifically that yellow represents the quality of goodness, red represents passion, and blue represents ignorance. So my question to you, Prabhuji, is that if blue represents ignorance, how come Krishna is considered Neel Madhava, or the blue god? In other words, Neel-ish, he is the blue god. And interestingly, is also there's a corollary to that, is that if we look at the secondary color, which is called green, and of course everybody likes greenery, and there is a bhajan also which says, Hari ko bhaaye rang hara, means Hari loves the color of green. And you get green from mixing the 2 primary colors, blue and yellow. Yellow representing Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, and blue representing Krishna, and their union is green. And that is why we accept greenery. Now, this is my concoction, but I would like you to, give your critical opinion on that.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in one of his writings, said that the Krishna's color is the color of a flower called asita. It is not completely blue, although he's described like that in some shastras. It's the color of a monsoon cloud called the asita flower. That is the actual color of Krishna. In some of the writings of Rupa Goswami, the Radha Krishna Goro Ganodesha Dipika, in which he describes all of the different gopis, the gopas, the mother, the father of Krishna, and all kinds of associates of Krishna, there's description that some of the gopis have got blue saris. So the color blue is also used for Krishna, to please Krishna. When it speaks of the mixing of these different colors, this is just an example in relation to the modes of nature. But there is such a thing as, for example, in one place in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Prabhupada says that white is the color of the absolute truth. So these different colors have different representation. Just like sadhus, the Mayavadi sadhus wear reddish color. The Vaishnava sadhus wear this, it's not completely red, it's called Geromati. Geromati is a kind of a rock in India. You take white cloth and you dye the cloth. It's like a combination of light pink, slightly red or something. But it's not the complete red like the Mayavadis. So there is different colors used for different purpose. But the blue color, Nila, is also used for Krishna, for Radharani, and like that for dressing the deities. Just a few observations. So,
well, thank you very much. Thank you. And thank everyone here who are members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association. We're going to wind up the class. One quick comment, Nilesh?
Yes, Prabhuji, you had requested last time, which I was unable to. I didn't get a chance to show it, but you were talking about what you call the sorry, give me one second here. Yeah, about cooperation between devotees. And this is what you wanted me to show it. So if you want
Go
to
ahead, please,
read it.
please read it. Please read it.
Okay. This is a letter to Upendra, August 6, 1970, where Prabhupada is writing. Now,
Yeah.
all my disciples must work combinedly and with cooperation to spread this Sankirtan movement. If you cannot work together, then my work is stopped up. Our society is like one big family, and our relationships should be based on love and trust. We must give up fighting spirit and use our intelligence to push ahead. You should accept help from your God brothers. So cooperation is what he was requesting us.
Perfect. Thank you. Very brilliant. And what we'll do is as we move forward in our studies together, we'll continually research the scriptures and bring all of these letters and information to the foreground so that everybody is knowledgeable in this area. Tom in Germany, thank you for your question. Just think about it, Prabhu Nilesh. Look at how he's 25 years old. Look at the depth of the question and the details in regards to the question on the history of ISKCON. Very, very profound. And I always ask Ron Singh, maybe we'll do this to wind up. Maybe Ron Singh could give us, Bhakta Ron Singh could also give a summary of today's discussion for us and how he perceives it. As a Bhakta, he's been around for a while. He's not new, but he's still learning. And go ahead, Ron, please. Ron Singh?
Is he there?
He could be, or he could be incognito. He may just be with the picture and not there. Okay, time's up. I wanted to say just before we end, we're going ahead with this 24-hour streaming program for the internet, and it'll be a combination of Prabhupada lectures, Prabhupada Japa, and Prabhupada Bhajans, and our classes. We have over 1,500 hours of classes. And a lot of times people come, get a hold of myself or Yaśodā. I just tell them, well, look, you want to have a discussion, just come to our classes. Hear the classes, and you'll figure out what all of us are thinking in the class. And if you're feeling motivated or blissful to be a part of this, then we can carry on and discuss different points of philosophy, but come to the classes. So this channel will be a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour channel. And I've got the outline of it. We'll be meeting with some of our members next week and discussing it, and then moving forward for the implementation of it. So it's a exciting new program for 2025 in eternal time. Yeah, eternal time. This is devotional service, blissfully performed by the Prabhupada disciples in this Hare Krishna Society mission. So thank you, everyone. We're going to move forward with the kirtan of Prabhupada leading Hare Krishna. Please chant along. It's 2 minutes and 54 seconds. I know it for sure. If I made a mistake, I'm going to be mad at myself. And thank you again, everybody. Blissful today. Very blissful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in this lively reading and discussion on Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Thanks Vishwakarma Prabhu in Hamilton, Ontario, Rupa Goswami Prabhu in Mumbai, India, Neil Sharma Prabhu in Florida, whether it's Fort Lauderdale or Miami, Bhakta Tom in Germany or wherever you are in Europe, and everybody involved in this wonderful program. In Rochester Mataji in Montreal, Canada, La Belle Province, Ram Raghava Prabhu in Georgia with a beautiful picture of Lord Rama and the 6 Goswamis behind his head, very auspicious. And Triloka Vijay in Florida. Oh, look at this. This is a beautiful picture of the creation, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, all the different planetary systems, Lord Brahma, the top of the universe, and everybody else around. Very, very auspicious, very auspicious. Thanks, everybody. We look forward to see you on Saturday morning for the Bhagavad Gita reading and discussion at 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time, corresponding to 10 a.m. Hamilton Eastern USA time. And also at we invite everybody, invite your friends, invite your relatives, everybody that you know, so we can have more the better. Thanks everybody for participating, and we look forward to see you soon. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.